During my last video, the video got cut off in the middle because was talking for so long, and as I was talking, my phone ran out of memory space, so I had to delete a bunch of videos off my phone so that I could try to continue talking about the last subject matter. Um, Politics in Buddhism was the topic, and one of the things is that I want to remind people of as I'm talking about this uh, is Buddhism. I think my understanding of Buddhism, let's say, not because I don't want to say that all Buddhists have to think the way I think, but in my understanding of Buddhism, we try to maintain a position of as much neutrality as possible. So I'm not trying to alienate Republicans or Democrats in any way talking about politics, or really any political party or any political stance or um, any philosophy in general. Just if you have a right to believe what you believe in the United States of America, really. And Buddhism, actually, the philosophy of the United States and free speech and things like that, is perfect for Buddhism because um, of the ability for a government to allow people to believe what they want to believe. Free speech, free thought, free expression, all those things. Well, Buddhists, we're not trying to force other people to adhere to our ideas and our concepts of what we believe. So the government, how it operates and who spends money on what, we would prefer to maintain a sense, or at least in my understanding of Buddhism, to maintain a stance of neutrality as much as possible. However, one of the things that I also believe is, as a Buddhist, my lifetime, I want to try to leave the world a better place than what I found it. So, as I am trying to leave the world a better place than what I found it, and you can see political stances on one side or the other, where people may be trying to take away the inherent rights that Americans should be able to enjoy. So the First Amendment gives you the right to your freedom of religion and the free press. Most of the time, free speech. Most of the time, when you hear a lot of these and I'm making a distinction between far right and right, because the Republicans, a lot of Republicans can be very good people, and a lot of Democrats can be very good people. There are extremes on both sides, which could be far right or far left, where they can embrace ideas that are harmful to other people. And so when I say far right, I'm not trying to alienate you if you're a Republican. But the people on the far right, they will try to use and talk about, like free speech as if they actually believe in it. They really don't. But they'll talk about the First Amendment, and they'll just, in this vague free speech sense, they will not, typically, most of them will not mention freedom of religion. Is actually the first thing that and you can look it up, the First Amendment, the first thing it mentions is, that the government will not establish a religion. I'm paraphrasing. Essentially, that's what it says, is that it will not establish any religion part of the government. That's the First Amendment of our Constitution, that we, all those, far right people who, claim that, they just, get back to the Constitution. They're completely ignoring the fact that the Constitution, the very First Amendment, and the very first part of that amendment is to not establish a religion in our government, because these are the same people that you will see in the far right, the same people that are we need to get back to the Constitution. They believe in America, America first, and all that. Yet they're the same people who will say that the Ten Commandments should be a part of our governments. Essentially, that we should have a Christian government. That that they will be trying to enforce their Christian beliefs on everybody else in the United States, even though some 30-40% of the United States isn't Christian. And this is supposed to be a nation where you are free to be a Christian, but you are also free to be a Buddhist. You are also free to be an atheist or an agnostic or, Native American religion. You are free to be a Muslim. You are free to be Hindu, Buddhist, whatever religion that suits you. And to enforce or impose a specific religion's tenets on the rest of society is anti-American. So the far right who's doing this is completely anti-American. The First Amendment is actually a Buddhist mentality in a sense, because, and not to say that Americans should be Buddhist or are, is a Buddhist country. No. A lot of the founding fathers were in fact Christians, but they had escaped Christian, persecution in Europe. And the idea of the Constitution and starting a free country with freedom of religion was inspired because they had lived through governments for centuries where one sect of Christianity would actually persecute other sects of Christianity, whether it was Catholics persecuting Protestants, or Protestants persecuting Catholics, or one group of Protestantism persecuting other groups of Protestantism. What you would see is that if the government embraced a specific ideology within Christianity, they started imposing laws based on that ideology within Christianity, they would even persecute other Christians. So what they realized at looking at historically what things that would happen was they needed to create a frame of government that didn't embrace any religion, even though they were Christians. And it wasn't a Christian nation. And there were certain principles that established this country that would guarantee, as long as we follow that Constitution, that you do not need the Ten Commandments or any legal or religious structure in order to create laws. See, a lot of religious people, and particularly far-right people who are Christians, will try to argue that our government, that in order to have laws, you have to have a God that tells you, thou shalt not murder, basically. That you have to have a God that says, thou shalt not steal. That you have to have this structure in order to know what's right from wrong, who, you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal, and, how would you be able to have laws unless you have a religion? And that's completely false, because this country established itself on the principles that everybody has inalienable rights, to which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That principle, that understanding, can create all of the laws, with the government doing the function of protecting people's rights. That's it. Because if somebody commits murder, they have violated a person's right to life. If a person steals somebody else's property, they have violated somebody else's rights. So the government, having the purpose of protecting rights, can create a nation of solid laws that does not require any specific religion, any specific Ten Commandments, or any law or Sharia law. I don't remember how to pronounce it. I probably pronounced it completely wrong. from the Muslim side or the 5 precepts of Buddhism. We don't need a government with any particular religion to tell us what's right or wrong in order to be able to create a good society, a lawful, law-abiding society. We don't need all that extra stuff. And in fact, when you create a country based on any religion, and I don't care what that religion is, any religion, what ends up happening is you get exactly what they saw in Europe. And that's not to say that Christians are evil or bad. I mean, it could happen with literally any religion, because if one sect of that religion that has an idea of how things should be based on their Bible or scriptures or sutras or Vedas or whatever they use to determine their truth, that once they start implementing that, enforcing that religious idea on others, you end up with a religious persecution. And so Christians who think that, like a Christian government, yay, because I'm a Christian and I think that's a great idea, you're going to get persecuted. You are a Christian. You are going to get persecuted if the government makes itself Christian. A lot of people don't understand that, because the American fathers actually created a government in the aftermath of those types of things happening. They understood that, which is the essence of this country. They knew would not hold against a religious persecution if they chose any brand of Christianity, because once a religion takes charge, they're going to persecute the other religions. And a good example is, let's say that they want to impose the Levitical law. Okay? There are things that the Levitical law in the Bible says you're not supposed to eat, that almost all of us eat. Okay? It's been a long time since I've read it. I've read the Bible several times, but those parts are really hard and vague in my mind as far as memory. But I seem to remember parts of the Levitical law talking about certain fabrics you're allowed to wear or not wear, that they can stone children, not stone as in getting high, obviously, stone as in taking stones and throwing it at them and killing them, to basically, and in fact, the Levitical law even gives you how to perform an abortion. So, Bible thumpers who believe abortion is evil because they believe that the right to life haven't actually read the whole Bible a lot of times, because the Levitical law, I don't remember what chapter it's in, but it tells you how to perform an abortion and in what situations you can perform the abortion. But these are the same people who tell you that it's immoral and against God's will. But as an example of types of things that could be used to enforce a belief on somebody else. And if you believe in somebody's right to life and believe that it's not God's will to do abortion, if you get a group of Christians in there that believes in the Levitical law, they're going to persecute you too. The other ideas could be things that you don't even think about sometimes. Like, one of the types of things that caused historical persecutions, and probably an even better example, because who's going to take the Levitical law where you can murder children if they're disobedient? So who's going to actually do that? It's probably not actually going to happen. So let's take a more realistic example that actually has happened, like the Inquisition. So the Inquisition was an attempt to eliminate heresy from the government and from Spain. So what they wanted to do was find people that believed in heresies, things that they deemed heresy. Well, the Bible actually speaks against heresy. St. Paul's letters has several remarks of putting heresies out, or putting people out of the church that embraced heresies. So when you look at like something like that, that actually happened historically. So essentially, a Christian government, if they take those parts of St. Paul, like putting people out who believe in heresy, you could get a government that basically anybody who does not believe in the Trinity, anybody who does not believe that Jesus Christ is God in the flesh, and all these other things, creates a persecution on those that don't believe that. So these things actually have happened. There are real historical examples of things like that have happened. And you can imagine different scenarios that could happen in the future that haven't happened yet. Like my example, improbable though it may be, that, if somebody were to take the Levitical law precisely as it's written and try to impose that on everybody, any disobedient child gets murdered under that government. So having a Christian government is not actually a good way to preserve your Christianity, and you as a Christian will get persecuted under a Christian government. I guarantee it. It has historically always happened. It will always happen. You don't want any specific religion directing your government. That's what the American founders realized when they created a country for freedom of religion, was to give you the freedom to be a Christian, but also other people the freedom to be whatever brand of Christianity they wanted, which most of the founding fathers were Christians, or even agnostic, atheist, or Buddhist in my case, or Hindu. Whatever your religion is, you have a right to be that religion. Now, there weren't any Buddhists, as far as I know, in America when America was founded. Okay, so it wasn't Buddhist philosophy that created that, but Buddhists do think like this. As far as political notion, my understanding of Buddhism is precisely that: to not impose my beliefs on others, not try to force people. Like, I can't control them. You have to give them the freedom to behave and think as they wish. And it just so happens that the American fathers, through experience, brutal experience, realized the same thing, that you could not impose these ideas on other people. So the freedom of religion was the first thing that our Bill of Rights mentions, not freedom of speech. Freedom of speech flows from that, because different philosophies, different religion, and freedom of press protects the other freedoms as well, because you can make people aware of what's going on without risking anything or being attacked. To give your opinions out there and let people know that you agree with this politician or don't agree with this politician. You don't have to worry about your head getting cut off. So freedom of speech kind of flows from that. If I have a religious idea and I have freedom to be that religion, I have the freedom to talk about that religion. If I have a freedom to think and my own ideas, I have the freedom to talk about my own ideas. What freedom of speech is not is freedom of speech is not your ability to slander people, innocent people, with things that are untrue. Now, if you saw a person commit a murder and you tell people that you saw him commit that murder, that's legal because you're just telling the truth. That's what you saw. But if you're calling somebody a murderer who is not a murderer, that is not free speech. Just calling somebody a murderer, you can't do that. People get hurt this way. And so this is where we're trying to go as far as the Buddhist idea of politics. It's not so much that we want to get involved in a specific side and people that, the Republicans should do this and Democrats should do this, and as if we could solve these world problems. No. Everybody's free to express and think what they want. But what happens is that in our government, we need we need to be able to recognize things that are actually harmful to people and their rights. Come here. Okay, so we need a government that's actually capable of recognizing. We need to be able to do that, to be able to think about things as Buddhists, and when you see somebody doing something or saying something that could actually harm other people or their rights, we need to be able to express that without really being worried that we have to have this strict neutrality. You could have Hitler in charge and, oh no, I'm neutral. No, I mean, if you've got Hitler in charge or something like that, Nazi Germany, things like that, you need to be able to express the concept that this is not right. Okay, that this is harmful to somebody. And that's a part of understanding that we are trying to leave the world a better place than what we found it. So on that note, what is extremely important is to see things when they are harmful to other people, and to at least acknowledge it. I mean, I could try to tell you about it. At the end of the day, I can't control you, and I don't want to. But I have to be able to acknowledge it and say, look, this is harmful to people. So one of the things, an example of something that's not free speech that a lot you see people using is, I remember during the Olympics, Fox News lied, just straight up lied, and said that this woman who was a boxer was trans. Now, she was not trans, and if you think she was, you're absolutely wrong. It's just not true. She was not trans. And, so regardless of where you fall, as far as trans rights and whether trans people should be allowed in sports or whatever, is really irrelevant because she wasn't trans. They just simply lied and said that she was, and pissed off a whole bunch of people. Now, why is that not free speech and the proper use of the free press? Because when you lie about somebody, not only does it hurt her and her reputation and the sense of her gold medal that she was a woman who won against other women, it also hurts other people. So another example, and these are kind of similar, is people claiming that gay people or trans people are pedophiles. That's not free speech. And the reason why it's not free speech is because it's not an opinion. It's not an opinion. It's something that can be proven true or false. If you say that gay people are pedophiles, you are wrong. Gay people are not pedophiles. If you say trans people are pedophiles coming after your children, you are wrong. They are not. And what that does is it creates this idea, because if you want to protect children, you have to harm gay people and trans people because you're protecting children. So it creates this psychology of violence towards a group of people who are not doing the thing that they say that they're doing. Because do you know who commits most child molestations and sex crimes against children? Priests and youth pastors. Okay? People in the Christian church who have access to children. Trans people don't have access to children for any reason whatsoever, unless they have their own children. So if you wanted to be a pedophile, that's where you would go, is put yourself in a position to be around children constantly. And that's who commits, and statistically, that's who commits most of the pedophilia, are priests and youth pastors. Okay? Trans people are not doing that. Gay people are not doing that. Okay, so when you pin that on them, it hurts them and makes people want to kill them, and it's wrong.